Late last week, House GOP leaders came up with a very interesting offer, say they would vote for the extension, but that the measure would also require the Democratic-controlled Senate to pass a budget, and if they fail to do that, pay for lawmakers themselves will be withheld. Speaker John Boehner said, quote, "We're going to pursue strategies that will obligate the Senate to finally join the House in confronting the government spending problem. The principle is simple. No budget, no pay." Joining me now with reaction, Congressman David Schweikert and Congressman Greg Walden. Guys, welcome aboard. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for having us, Sean.
First of all, I was skeptical, Congressman Walden, in the beginning when I heard, Republicans are giving in already. But I had a couple of discussions this weekend with some of your colleagues. They explained the rationale. Number one, the sequestration. Those cuts will go into effect. You're going to force the president and the Senate to come up with a budget. Senate hasn't passed a budget in over 3.5 years, and that paves the way for more cuts. I liked it more when it was explained to me. Is that about right?
I think it is, Sean, and I think it's about time the Senate did its legal responsibility of passing a budget. We've passed one each of the last 2 years we've been in the majority, the Ryan budget. It laid out a plan for how to deal with America's biggest problems, our debt and deficit and the ongoing spending, that if we don't reform, we'll end up bankrupting this country, and it's unfair to the next generation not to stop this. It's time for the Senate to step up and act. When I've done my town meetings, Sean, people say, well, how do they get away with that? What's the penalty? If it were me and my job, I'd get fired. Do they even get their pay docs? So I think this notion of no budget, no pay makes a lot of sense. And if people want to weigh in, they can go to our nrcc.org website and make their views heard.
By the way, we're watching also as we speak. That is the First Lady, President Obama. This is their second ball of the evening, and a few less balls than they had back in 2009. And I got to give the president a lot of credit. I did not dance at my own wedding. I can't dance. I don't like to dance. And they look really nice together. All right. Why are you laughing at that, Congressman? That's no reason to mock me.
I'm sorry. I'm just picturing you dancing to Jennifer Hudson.
I love Jennifer Hudson. I would love to be at the party. Look, everybody's taping. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm not even invited to the media Christmas party.
Sean, did you notice the cool kids didn't get invited?
Yeah, we could rationalize it and spin it any way we want, but I don't even get invited to the White House media Christmas party. I'm the only one that's off the list.
And nobody's making fun of my haircut, okay? I just want to put that on the record if I could.
Well, no, I mean, look, it's a reason to celebrate the peaceful transition of power. We celebrate the election of presidents. I'm just counting down the days to 2016, politically speaking. All right, well, what do you think, Congressman Schweikert? Weigh in on this. Is this going to help motivate the Senate to get to a budget?
Well, I sure hope so, because in many ways what you've seen the last 2 years is those of us in the Republican House have been negotiating with ourselves. You know, you keep having folks say, well, why can't you make this work? Why can't you at least explain to the public what's really going on with the budget? Well, how do you get there when you have a Senate that refuses to do its job?
Well, that's a good point. How did they ever get away with this, Congressman Walden? Congressman Schweikert, go ahead.
You know, they just haven't acted, and they'll say, oh, well, we don't really need to do a budget. Harry Reid has said we're not going to mark up a budget. Patty Murray earlier this week said, I don't know, and she's chairman of the committee. And so what we have to do is draw attention to it. You know, we need to solve problems. It reminds me of the old Jimmy Buffett song, you know, if the phone doesn't ring, it must be me. That's like waiting for the Senate to call with a budget.
You know, Congressman Schweikert, one of the observations I had today, and I thought my colleague Charles Krauthammer made a very good point, and that is, it's Obama laid down the gauntlet a little bit today. And Obama's you know, the most liberal partisan inaugural speech that I can think of in our lifetime. Now, and almost he wants to destroy or wipe out the Reagan legacy or Reaganism with massive big government social engineering. Do you think he'll be successful in this term accomplishing that?
Well, that's our job in the House, is to stop this. And think about sort of the outrageous language in the president's speech today. When he wants to talk about social justice, well, darn it, a job is the ultimate social justice. And yet the policies of this administration have crushed the ability to expand this economy. So how do we now in the House start to use what leverage points we have to force the Senate to finally engage in the process of doing what's right? And Mr. Walden and I have talked about this in the past. I think the Senate has avoided doing a budget because they're terrified of letting the American people understand how bad the numbers are.
All right, by the way, what you're watching on your screen, and by the way, this is not Dancing with the Stars or Dancing with the Politicians. That, of course, Vice President Joe Biden and his wife, Jill. They'll also be addressing the troops tonight. Coming up later on at some point when it happens, we'll bring it to you live. And we're gonna have a vote on Hannity.com. Who's the better dancer, the president or the vice president? I'm kidding.
Sean?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think David hit a really important point. Where was the discussion about how we create a healthy economy in this country so that people don't have to work 2 jobs or 3 part-time jobs, and then moms who don't have control of their schedule and their life, and then you have all that climate change discussion. What's that mean to the price of gasoline and electricity going forward? We have to have a focus on creating a good, strong American economy where people can get a job and it pays the bills. They don't have to work 2 or 3 or scramble around. And we can get there. And that's what we need to focus on, is coming together to grow our economy, grow jobs. And then you won't have quite the bloated government you have, because we get at the demand side of government.
Listen, there obviously are a lot of challenges. I know for the president and vice president, this is a night of celebration. Thank you both, Congressman, for being with us. As you're watching on your screen, there is Vice President Joe Biden.